For this dress, these are the things that you're going to need. You're going to need some material, a 1/2 inch braided elastic, measuring tape, pins, needle and thread, as well as scissors. Those scissors are just for demonstration purposes. But for the fabric, I used about 3.5 yards. Depending on your height, I'm 5'2½". So I just let 3 inches drape in front of me when I hung it over me, and 3 inches drape in the back of me, and that's how I got the 3.5 yards. If you're taller, I would say do the same method, but add about an additional 2 inches to each side because the fabric gets shorter as you twist. So when the fabric is opened up, you'll have the two salvage edges at the top and the bottom. You're gonna fold the fabric over so that they meet. After you fold it over in half, you can iron it to give you a straight edge so that you know where to cut. And then you're gonna cut the fabric along the fold line. So you're gonna cut all the way down so that you have 2 equal pieces. After you cut the fabric in half the long ways, you then want to take the edges, fold them over, and then sew it all the way down the whole length of both of them. And you're gonna do the same to this side. After you finish sewing the sides of it, then you want to drape it on you like this. So you'll drape one of the halves on this side, and then you drape the other half on the other side. So I've already done this side, but what I did was I basically draped it over me. I aligned them in the front and the back. And then I gathered it, and then for the back, I kind of stepped on it to stabilize it for me while I twisted this right here. So I twisted it inwards, but I'm holding on to the bottom of it. So you're going to continue to twist it until you get to an acceptable area that is the same level as the other side. And then you're going to pin it to you to keep it stabilized. This is what it should look like after you pin it to you. So mind you, we're going to gather this part right here up. Now for the back. I'm not talking to you. So for the back, you're gonna just twist it like this, and then you're gonna do the same to the other side too. Just twist it. Make sure you keep them twisted in the right direction. This is where you know you want to twist it too. So what you can do is take a pin, kind of pin in between both of them. Be careful not to stick yourself. And now for the front, pin the twist area to the fabric so that they stay and you know exactly where you twist it to. This will also help keep the fabric tight when you take it off to sew. So after you finish pinning everything, you should just be able to just lift it off of you and you'll pretty much have your base. So here's the back of the dress. What you want to do now is you want to align them so that you can pin both sides of the fabric together. But you want to twist the fabric on both sides so that the wrong side of the fabric will be facing upwards, and that'll make it easier for you to pin them and then afterwards sew it with ease. So once you twist both sides up, you want to pin the twist together to stabilize it and pin it to something if you have anything you can pin it to, just so that you can keep it from twisting while you pin the two sides together. So now that we know basically where the twists are gonna end, you can now properly twist the fabric. For the twist, I twisted each fabric while I twisted them over one another. This helped keep the twist more defined. I still had to go back and readjust as I twisted though to keep it tight and make it look good. So I had to get a little helper to help me out. But after you twist it, you don't want to stabilize it by pinning them together. So just keep sticking a pin in through them to help stabilize it. Thank you. So using a needle and thread, I sewed together the twist right here, kind of pinning it through the rope. And on this side, I sewed across, if you can see it, I sewed across the rope right there just so that I could keep that opening there. So now for the back seam, I'm gonna sew both of the two sides together all the way down. After you sew the back together, as you can see, the back is sewn together, then you want to put it back on and twist the tops to your desired arrangement. So this is my desired arrangement. Then what I did was I then pinned it to each side of the back. So now to take the shape, what you're gonna do is you wanna pin this in place, or another thing that you can do is you can take a scrunchie and kind of tie it, or a rubber band, or tie something and tie it there to show where this needs to stay twisted, and then you can go over it with the sewing machine. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to create gathers right here at this area right here. I'm gonna do the same right here as well. So once you figure out where you want to put your gathers, so I want to put mine right there, I'm gonna pin that area so that I know where I want to put the gathers, and I'll just duplicate this from here onto there. So with the gathers, remember, you're gonna sew across it twice, and then you'll pull the string to create the gather. So here you can see where I put the ties to stabilize the twists. This is where my gathers are gonna go. So I'm just basically gonna sew right along here twice so I can get my gathers. I've been stressing myself trying to figure out how I'm going to make this gather so that it encases my bust. So that's been a whirlwind of confusion and frustration. But I just realized I don't need to gather it so it can enclose my bust, because I'm going to wear it with a belt at all times anyway. Either it'll be a belt made of the same fabric or a different type of belt. So I'm just going to make gathers like I did for this one. I'll make the same thing right there just to keep the gathering there, and that'll be it. So at this point in time, I'm going to sew this side and this side together so that it can kind of finish the dress. Here I'm just aligning certain parts of the dress together. This way I don't end up with a lopsided dress after I finish sewing the sides together. So using a tapestry needle, you want to sew the twist together. Do it diagonally so that you can cover more rope area. So after you sew it and you take your bands off, this is what it will look like. The dress is almost done. Last thing we're going to do right now is hem the bottom of the skirt. I should have made it a little bit longer, but I didn't, so I can't really hem that much, but I need to hem enough to carry on to the sides that the fabric wasn't even. So right after you finish hemming, your dress is done. So upon completing the hemline, I noticed that the area that we gathered under the bust wasn't as stable. So instead of using a thin strip of material to keep it stable, I decided to use elastic to give it some give when enclosing it over my bust. So I did it to this side and to the other side. So the dress is done. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And Until we meet again, bye. Have a wonderful week, everyone.